Good morning, everyone. I am so excited this morning to introduce one of my favorite people on this planet, the wonderful Tracy Tully. How are you, Tracy?
I'm very well, thank you, Dee, and thank you for having me. It's an honour.
I'm so appreciative of your time. I know you're such a busy woman in the middle of moving house and you've got so much going on, guest speaking, books and things that you're working on. So really appreciate you taking the time out this morning to have a chat with us. I would love, Tracy, for those that have never met you and don't know much about what you do, for you to just give us a bit of a rundown on who you are, what you do and where you're located.
All right, so who am I? I'm 60 years old, which I am very proud of, that I've got to this space in time. I've just completed a career, 38 years as a principal in rural, remote schools, very violent, high violence with high drug use. And I have travelled all over Australia, and I was born into a Air Force family. So I had 13 schools in 12 years. My genre is social justice. So when I left education at the end of 2018, I left with a bang because I was a 2 times whistleblower. For the first whistleblower I did was on my principal, who I walked in sexually assaulting a child. And I reported him, and it was discovered by police that he had set up a cult in the Indigenous community we lived in, and he was cashing all their checks, giving them $20 cash back a week, and he was pocketing it. So he had a real rort going. For me to do that, I had to resign from teaching, because in those days you could not make a complaint without doing that. And I think it probably should be that like that pretty well now. No, I don't. But as it turned out, he was charged and convicted. And I had left my job, and I went and went to the pub straight away as soon as I signed my forms and letters and sent them and tabled them at the police station. I went to the pub because I thought I didn't know what to do. I was stuck right up in the Gulf of Carpentaria in a place called Normanton, and I thought, oh, I just lost my whole career and all my study and everything. I had to do it. And then I was approached by a group that walked into the pub for lunch, and they were the national Canberra heads of air surveillance or Coast Watch Patrol. They heard my story and they employed me immediately. So off I went in Air Commander 500s and had a life with them, and then was invited back to the education department once the guy had been convicted. My second whistleblower was in 2010. And it was rather ballsy because it was against my Director General of Education in Queensland. And I knew the minute I chose to do it that I chose to lose my career forever. And that was in a flood. I was running 2 schools in the flood, a big flood out west. Excuse me, and they refused to allow me to close the school as it went underwater. Therefore, by doing that by law, I couldn't evacuate kids from the school grounds, and it was up to my knees with the power on. They were pretty well very angry and aggressive towards me, swearing, carrying on, telling me I couldn't do it. And so I decided to give it back some and gave it back to the DG in the language she understood, and rang the police and said, this is what I've done my career. And he said, you sure have. So that was the end of that career, illustrious career, and I would do it again. I wrote a book to make sure that the real story got out, because as you can imagine, when you're a whistleblower of those proportions, they'll come after you very quickly with a whole range of goodies to campaign against you, to slash your whole persona, everything you've lived and breathed for, and your family. So my family were attacked quite significantly. My book's called Fearless, Buckle Up, Build Resilience. And it's had to be written 3 times in accordance with the solicitor's requirements to ensure that I wouldn't get done like a dinner, because there were some big people. So what I uncovered was a circle of corruption and fraud within the department. So the Director General was charged and convicted. So that was a lot for me. But what had happened was, what people don't realise is these people in high leadership surround themselves by, obviously, as you would, like-minded people, and they were their boys and girls who did their work for them. So our children were mercilessly crucified. And the first chapter of my book is about how my 10-year-old son was bashed as an example of it. And it was a very public bashing outside his school waiting for the bus. So it was quite traumatic for me. And then I decided that I had to do something. And in my job, I was always helping people in terms of counselling. So whether it was children, whether it was teenagers, whether it was the teachers, the teaching staff, or support staff, or parents, it was always, every single day, it's like a doctor's surgery next. It was another appointment, but it was always the same thing coming up. So I decided to use that as my business. I specialise in speaking out. So social justice is my thing. And I made the decision that since I had tested the water, so to speak out publicly, and they did what they could to me, then really there was no going back. So that was what I chose. So last night, my last job last night was to help a principal with her appeal to the Industrial Relations Commission against, once again, the Director General of Education in Queensland, and that took quite a few hours. And so that's the sort of thing I do. I like that real snarky political activism, speaking out, and then I teach others to speak out and mask their fear in terms of not making it about us, but making it about what we can do to help people. So that's what I do. I've just been... Is
that all you do, Tracy? Because that, like, I just sit here and go, wow. And that's not all that you do, because you have such a colourful career, and you also are highly passionate about doing things that light you up. So last time I spoke to you, you were talking, I think you'd just been doing hairdressing or something, and then you'd said that you were doing something else. And I love that about you. So I would love to know how you balance your mental capacity with this. So the work that you do is actually would, in my opinion, take a heavy mental toll. So I'd love to know some of the things that you do to kind of switch off from that. We've got lots of people that entered the Roar Awards this year that work in that social justice sector, personal service. Sometimes those cases that they take, or the clients that they work with, can dump a lot of heavy energy and heavy mental load on you. And I'd love to know how you disconnect from that at the end of the day, so that you don't send yourself completely bonkers.
And it's real. It's very real. And in my 38 years as a principal, there was no support at all in the headspace stuff. None. You're in total isolation. So, you know, to sit late at night waiting for a child who is suicidal for somebody somewhere to help me with that child, because I wasn't going to let them go, is difficult. So I understand that aspect. And the isolation has taught me to be extremely resilient, as well as all of the activities that I've been involved with. But what I do love is horses. So my sister's a racehorse trainer and breeder, and I'm a strapper, and a very heavy strapper. And I love playing with those animals because it brings you down to earth. You know, there's nothing better than having a teenage horse play up with you when you're in a filthy mood for some reason, and then you've got to meet their needs. It's no different to your kids. So I like to do lots of things. I did hairdressing and beauty for the sole reason that I had to train it in my school, because the kids asked for it. So the kids, I was in a lot of tough schools, isolated rural schools, and there wasn't much for them in terms of jobs, future jobs. So our system isn't really structured for that, unless you're a university trained. So I brought those about. I also started up a sheep shearing school. So I was the first in the world to do that. And that was pretty exciting. And everything I do, I enjoy immensely, and I do it for the fun. So that's one of the big things. My 5 micro habits are the only way I can cope with my mindset, because my mindset will spiral downhill very quickly, because I'm on the move all the time. If I stop, that's when the thoughts come in. So I do 5 micro habits in the morning that help me reset my brain every morning, especially when things get really difficult and I see things happening. I'm now doing, as a secondary income, I'm a cosmetic tattoo practitioner. I'm just getting ready now to do online courses in that as well. So that's my creative side. And I've just finished my first children's book, and it's off with Sean Lay, who's the political cartoonist for the Courier Mail here, to do all the the illustrations, which I'm very excited about. So mindset very much has to be in control from the moment I open my eyes in the morning. I'm really disciplined about that. I like doing long haul driving, and I sing, and I probably get my best creative content in that time. So right now I'm learning Time to Say Goodbye for my daughter's wedding, and our son's going to sing that with me. So that's going to be a bit of a challenge. So I like to sit outside the square, and really, I suppose there isn't a square for me. It's just this big space, which I like to play in.
Yeah, no square. You're definitely not in a box, Tracy. I think Jody just gave you a little round of applause, or she's asking a question. If you've got a question, Jody, feel free to drop it in the chat. She might have knocked her button too. But I was going to say, Tracy, you've talked about different industries that you're in, but in that education, social justice space, in that industry, what do you think the biggest challenges are that are facing that industry right now? You've talked about some that you've had previously. Do you think it's changed, where they're different now, or it's still the same? I'd love for you to elaborate on that.
Yeah, so there's a huge issue across Australia with education. It's extremely archaic, and it has not shifted. So, excuse me, I love studying research and data. And so the research and data in Queensland, and I'm well aware of the other states, is stagnant and hasn't gone anywhere. And that's a real concern for me as both a parent, an auntie, a woman and teacher, etc. What worries me is that they keep doing at teachers and at kids, and we're not really creating the correct educational environment for children of the future. So we are still creating an educational environment for the industrial era, and that's a bit sad. So all this celebration about STEM to me is utter bullshit. It should be just the common, normal subject of the day anyway. Why they hide behind, oh, this is also wonderful, really bugs me. It just should be part of math and science and IT. To me, all subjects have an interrelationship there. So I get quite snarky about that. I'm really outspoken about it. And I can be because of my experience. So I wrote a blog there, an article not long ago, and once again it was pretty out there, called Muzzle the Mob. And it just so happened that when I put it up on the computer, that it was just at the same time as Black Lives Matter. And so I got a bit of flack from my VA because she didn't want to put it up. She was quite fearful of it and a whole range of things, and she's putting in her assumptions, etc. It was picked up by the Australian Catholic University Media Branch, and they offered me the position of being the national spokesperson, media spokesperson across Australia in terms of education, because no one would don that mantle because of the fear that they have. So I hope that answers that question.
Yeah, and it actually leads perfectly into my next question for you. So, Tracy, you obviously are quite a strong person who can take it on the chin, still put yourself out there and take the risk of losing your career not once but twice over. How do you work on building your resilience so that you can make better decisions, particularly when we're in situations where we're trying to grow businesses and things? Sometimes you get caught up with the wrong crowd, or you take influence from the wrong people, or someone offers you a deal and you're not, sometimes it's hard to say no, or to step out and say, well, hang on, that isn't right. How do you work on those resilience skills and developing that? Is there some advice around that you could give everybody?
Yeah, so I've been there. I've been to the bowels of the earth. I know exactly what it's like in terms of everything. Loss of a massive income as a result of trusting people, and sometimes when you're pared back to nothing, it's not a bad thing. And it allows you to say, well, either you have to survive, and that's what you do. For me, it's about networks, and once again, they're very difficult to find like-minded people who you absolutely trust, that won't scam you, or they aren't after your confidentiality or your IP or your money. it's a rare world that we live in. I suppose that's why we connected like that when we're at the Gold Coast. For me, I had a lady ring me yesterday, and she was in dire straits. She's just lost her third business since COVID, and she's in the middle of radiation for breast cancer. And she rang me and she said, I desperately need to talk to you. I don't know what I'm going to do. And we talked it out. So problem solving is one of the best things I do. I love, because I can see it from the outside, like a lot of us can't. You really need to go to someone who can tell you how it is without sugarcoating it, because that's not going to help anyone. Sugarcoating it. If you've got a situation in your life happening and you need to reach out, that's what I love to do. And it's about flipping it. So seeing, as I said to this lady, what is your first priority, your very, very first priority, and make one priority a day. That's all you can cope with, one priority a day. And even at your best, no more than 3 a day. So that would be my biggest takeaway, is if there's someone you trust, and it doesn't matter if they're not in your field, it's just someone you know has done the hard yards, has got runs on the board. They don't have to be a multi-millionaire, 6-figure, 7-figure, whatever. They just have to be a decent person, someone that you can talk to run things past, bounce things off. So for me, I sit in the paddock with my sister, and we've got really rough mouth, gutter mouth in the paddock, and we'll sit there, you know, with the foals, racing foals, and we usually massage their backs, and we just let it fly. But what we do is we use each other as a sounding board, and it's good. So using people as a sounding board, even something like this, where you don't hold back, and too many of us hold back. We're brought up to, you know, watch our tongue, and people will judge you. For me, I grew out of that long ago, worrying what people think of me, and that's really important for me.
You're definitely that kind of person, Tracy, that is such a great advocate for reaching out to ask for help. And we've discussed this in previous chats that I've run in the members club, but I reached out to you at the start of the year when I had, you know, the weight of the world on my shoulders and feeling like I was dealing with some crazy chaos around me. And a lot of people don't do that. I think, and I'd only met you once prior to that. We'd met on the Gold Coast at a conference. But when I was looking at my network and around the people that I had around me, you're right. Sometimes you need that person that doesn't sugarcoat it or fluff it over or tell you, don't worry, you're amazing. It's all going to be fine. Don't worry, don't worry. The one thing that I found when I spoke with you was that you just didn't let me live in my own shit. So I was really sort of taken out of that. So for people that might not feel like they have that person around them, I mean, particularly with COVID, we've been so isolated. And I think we've really started to see that perhaps our busy lives, where we're busy, scrambling all the time, we haven't really worked on good relationships. Do you think it's okay just to reach out to somebody random and say, hey, you know, can I talk to you? Can you be my sounding board? Do you think, is there a technique to being able to reach out to somebody who you think might be able to help?
Yeah, well, everyone just rings me, so I just get calls all day Sunday, and it doesn't matter what day or night. So I think I was working till 2 a.m. this morning on this legal thing. At the end of the day, you get to a point where if you can't go any further, you have to do something about it. So my advice there is that in life, as you talk to people, you'll have that gut feeling who you connect with. Now, they may not know and understand business. They could just be someone, and not just, that's a terrible word, that they're someone who you know you can trust to be a sounding board, to connect with someone. Never, ever let yourself get to the point where you can't cope. And I always say, despite I use my sister, never, ever use your family and friends. You should go to someone who you feel that you've got a connection with and ask for help. Invariably, if they're like me, they'll say it's no cost until you commit to something, because they're genuine in terms of helping you. And sometimes that's all you need, that 1 or 2 hours, so you can just get it off your chest, to help you know that you can survive the rest of that day. Because a lot of people will come to me. I had a guy the other day, and he was almost suicidal. So if you can do one little thing to help someone, it's unlock your voice and never be afraid to speak out. There's no such thing as failure. There's no such thing as failure. I wrote in my book, actually, just to warn the people who might decide to play with me, which would be very foolish. I wrote in the book, don't forget that I know everything about you, and that if you want to play, and I didn't write it like that, but I more or less said it, if you want to play on the open field, bring her on, because I'm on the field with my boots and gloves, and by God, it's just what I want. So basically, all I want with my book is to look at how I can help others, and that's in terms of the Queensland Public Service Act, and that's a Bligh administration thing that they brought in to get rid of people, the Public Service Act here. So that's my thing there. And can I speak out about it too? Right, I can, because no one else will or could. I had the Courier Mail ring me the other day, and a couple of journos from Melbourne, and they said, why won't anyone speak out? There's not one person in the whole of Australia that will speak out, and it's because of fear. So if you can find someone who you can trust with your fear, then that's what you need. And if you've got a friend, I get doctors actually recommend people to me purely on that. If you know someone in your gut, they might not give you all the information you want, but if it's enough to help you breathe, prioritize the one thing, and just get through that day and that night, then yes, you've got to seek out help. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I'd love to know, Tracy, if you could go back to the beginning of your career and give yourself one piece of advice, what that advice would be and why.
It's a hard one, isn't it, that one? Because a lot of people will skirt around that. To be honest, I remember doing a massive trip down from Normanton to Gatton Ag College here, where my sister was. And this was after I had been the first whistleblower. And I said to her, I don't want to do teaching anymore. I'm really disgusted with it. It's just not good. And she got really upset with me and said, oh, you shouldn't do this, which actually made me go back because of the way we've been brought up and the era being brought up. I wish actually, if I was going to change anything, that I had let go then and done the things that I wanted to do. But my problem was I wanted to do lots of things. I wanted to be a stunt woman, and I wanted to be an architect, and I wanted to do this and this and that. And I don't know what it was really. Probably if I'd traveled around the world, I wanted to fly like my father. I think, if I can go back, it's just not having fear. So fear is my thing, fear. And I think you earn that through growth, don't you? You actually, as a young person, of course you have fear, but to actually grow out of that is something. So when I talked to my son the other day, and he was badly bashed, and I said to him, how did you feel about the national news article they wrote about you and this? And he said, well, Mum, it's done, it's okay. So both my kids have seen and experienced a lot as a result. So I think looking back at them too, they weren't cloistered. I always shared everything with them. People say, oh, don't share that with your kids. There's nothing my kids didn't know, nothing they didn't know. And I think if I could go back again, it was to take the path that I truly wanted, no matter how bizarre it was.
Well, it's certainly been colourful. Even if you're not a stunt woman, you've definitely pulled some stunts in your career for sure.
Yeah.
So what do you think your industry will look like in, sort of 5 to 10 years time from now? So you've obviously seen a lot of change over the years, and you've been an advocate and a voice for those voiceless that didn't have a voice. What do you think the changes will be? Do you think we're going to see more progression and growth, or do you really think the industry needs more whistleblowers and more people to advocate for change? Like, is the change coming?
Yes, I think the change is coming. And I think people, and I hate to say this publicly, but once again, I do these things. COVID happened for a reason. And I always like to look at the flip side. There's always a flip side. There's a positive and negative. And whilst there's been incredible negative, there's also been incredible positive. And we needed it as a world. We needed it globally. And we need to step outside of ourselves and see what we can do. We need to speak out, especially whistleblow. In Australia, the tall poppy syndrome is alive and well. Quite scary, isn't it? That when I was in Egypt speaking in March, they were horrified with my story, the Egyptians, because they said, we didn't think that those things happened in Australia. We thought it only happened to us here. And I said, don't bet on it. We might be a democracy, but we're actually not. So if we don't start speaking out and teaching our kids to speak out, then we will continue to do this. We're not going to rise. So yeah, I think the whistleblowing has to be big, and that's my thing.
Do you have any advice, Tracy? You have spoken at many events across the world, and is there a way that people can tap into opportunities where they can start to use their voice a little bit more? Are there any tips around that where people can look for opportunities, or how did you get started in that? Because you're very busy. I mean, I feel like you're talking and you've got your own radio show now and you're interviewing guests as well. How do you get into those opportunities?
Once again, it's not being afraid to ask. If there's something that you want to do. So my dream is always TEDx. And so basically, don't just sit there and dream about it. Look for it and ask people. And more than likely, you won't find it in your circle, your immediate circle. Unless they're all TEDx speakers, you won't find it. So you have to seek people in that field. And that's where you have to be, once again, step out and ask. So for me, by writing articles and speaking up on Facebook, lives. So for example, if I speak up on LinkedIn, and I watch who's watching me. There's a lot of police from New South Wales and Queensland watching me. And I enjoy that, because I thought if I'm ruffling someone's feathers, then that's good. And I know they're speaking to someone. I think if you believe in something and you're tempering what you feel and won't say it because you're worried about your clients and what your clients will think, or your sponsors or whatever, then you've got a problem in life. So for me, it's about, we're all writers. The Raw Awards is about people who help in the social justice field. They're about people who obviously speak, write, blog, whatever they do. They have a tremendous voice and an opportunity to that voice. So I would be saying rise up. And I was found by the ACU Media Journal by reading that one article. And that a lot of people went, oh, you can't call the title Muzzle the Mob. And so if you think something, feel something, make it sexy, make it out there, put your name on it, because people actually do like it. You know why? Because they want to be like you, but they can't and won't because they're too scared. But they really like the fact that someone is doing it. So put your name out there. Don't be afraid. Make sure you've done your homework and research. Know your legal stuff in terms of not sharing, people's names unless you've got them in quote, etc. Yeah.
I love that advice. And you actually just touched on something that I hadn't even considered, where people that have entered the awards this year have had to actually write about themselves or do a video about themselves. There's so many people in this year's awards. I know the judges' feedback has been that some of these people should be writing books, their journeys and their stories and their business, acumen, all the things that they've been doing and their own experience would make a great book. You've obviously written books. So how can someone get into that space? Or is there any kind of tip or trick on how to get started, how to map out what your story might be? Because writing a book is quite daunting. When someone says, put 40,000 words down on a piece of paper, I go, oh, I don't know where to start. So do you have any advice around where?
I do. I have a golden nugget for you. I've got a few golden nuggets. The biggest golden nugget I have is and people struggle with this, treat yourself like a character in a book and keep the emotion out of it. So grab a piece of paper, a blank piece of paper, and start immediately is what I tell people working with me, or even if they're not working with me, and write down, describe yourself as a character in a book. Everything, absolutely everything possible. Look at yourself in the mirror without emotion. It's not about what's inside your head. It's not about what you think. Just about your character, what you sound like, what you look like, how you move, what size foot you've got, the wrinkles on your face, or, the valleys and craters and, whatever, anything whatsoever. And you should come up with a great big page. Now, a lot of people can't do that because they keep saying, I'm not good enough, or I'm this, or I'm that, or I'm fat, whatever. It's not about that. Find really good adjectives to describe yourself. Once you have got yourself in the character and you're really cool and comfortable with who you are, it's incredibly powerful. It's tough stuff for you to step outside into a whole new realm of world, because you'll find you're impenetrable then. You can't, no one can sort of touch you because you've moved up to an area where you know yourself, you know what you are, and you don't pretend. That's what you are. So then when you go to write, you're writing from your heart and your voice, not from the assumptions of other people or what they think of you or anything at all. It's interesting because I started my book. I don't know if any of you have heard of Man in the Arena. If you follow Brené Brown, you certainly will. So Man in the Arena was written by Theodore Roosevelt in 1910. And I've known about it for years and years and years. But when I was writing this book, I really wanted to write some heroic prose. And it inspired me to put my thoughts on paper in a genteel way. And so I looked at Man in the Arena was about guys, 4 guys in 1910. Why hadn't any woman done that since? So we're in 2020. Oh, I wrote this on the 23rd of April, 2019. I decided to write a female version of Man in the Arena, and it's called She Rises from the Fire. And that was the very front of my book. So it's about looking at your uniqueness and welcoming it, not shying away from it because of what people might think. I'll give an example. This was really, really interesting. I think in the Christmas of 2018, I was looking after my sister's horse stud for her while she went away on holidays, and it was stinking hot. We were in drought. She had no water. It was really tough work with these teenage racehorses. And I got so sick of it by the 3rd day. I had a set of clippers. Obviously, I have all my hairdressing gear in the car. And I grabbed the clippers and I just shaved off my head totally. And I thought, oh, that's so good. And I walked into the stables and every single horse's head went, and they looked at me, and it's all right now, horses can. Oops, there we go. You there? Sorry.
Sorry, got you. Yep, you're good.
So one of the things was that I really was shocked and horrified at the perceptions people gave me because I had clipper number 2 hair, and I immediately got called gay. And I went to this writers forum in Melbourne, and they didn't like it. They didn't even know me, but they saw this head come in, half baldy head, and they judged me straight away. And I had driven the whole way down because I like long haul driving, and I was really fascinated with their assumptions of me. And I kept it clipped for a long time. That photo's in the back of my book. And I think that's the big thing. Don't be fearful. In fact, I like to flaunt that a bit, court it. I like to say, okay, step outside the square myself and just be me. Just being me. Yeah.
I love the activity that you just described about writing your own character, because it's almost like you start to champion yourself from an outside point of view. And I really believe that everybody has a hero moment. So I love that you rewrote that narrative as well in a female version, because we don't do that enough for ourselves, I don't think. We always look at other people and we champion on their behalf. You know, how many times a day do you tag someone else that you think's amazing in a post because someone's looking for something or someone? How often do you put yourself forward and say, hey, over here, I'm amazing, you should talk to me? You're very, very right. I think that's a great activity. I think everyone should be doing that, even as a cathartic exercise, to really tap into who you are and take that outside, you know, bird's eye view in. Love it. You're always just always got those nuggets, Tracy, don't you? So I'd love to ask you one final question before I open up for everyone else to ask a question. I'd love, as a judge, you're obviously judging our awards this year, and I've been asking all the judges this because this year has been hugely different in terms of the caliber. Everyone has stepped it right up. We have such a diverse range of entrants this year. And you guys have such a hard job in judging. And I know the feedback that's coming through, like, I don't even have all the sheets back yet because judges are still going, oh my God, I'm torn. And I'm, you know, every time they go back to it, it's a different, you know, they think about things differently. I'd love to know, it's at the end of this week, I'm going to put up the top 5 for each category. Some categories we had up to 37 people this year. So that's a huge number of entrants in terms of, you know, people gunning for the one award or the 3. But I'd love to know from your perspective as a judge, for those people that don't make the top 5 this week, the takeaway, what advice do you have for them so that they don't take it as a negative hit or personal, you know, disappointment? And it's hard for people because everyone's in it to win it. But I'd love to know your advice on that.
And that's something that I think about every day because of, once again, the responsibility I've got, but also, I suppose, my experience. So I always like to look at everything in its cold, hard, brutal reality. And I never like to sugarcoat anything, as you know. The bottom line is, when a person takes the responsibility to enter an award, they take the responsibility to accept the outcome. And I look at that in terms of fact and fact only. So no emotion in it. We all enter these awards to lift our profile, our presence, and our profit. We know that. That's the political animal. That's the animal, the business person we are. So we have to accept that if we haven't cut it or made the grade, there's a reason for it. And it's not necessarily a negative. It might mean that they haven't ticked every box, that's all. So my biggest give for that is look at the criteria. And the criteria is really simple in your awards. I love your awards. I get so excited. I've reread my applicants so many times because I just love being part of what they're doing. But the biggest thing is there's some really blatant mismaneuvers, so to speak, where they haven't connected with criteria. And if the criteria says do this, 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 and this, that's what it means. And if you failed to do it and you've gone, oh, you know, maybe that's what they want. It's not maybe that's what they want. It's, have I answered the criteria with fact? And it's like that. Write yourself up as a character. Look at the fact. So if the first criteria is, let me see if I can just quickly use one, say in my category, what makes you, your business, your product, service unique, then what you're doing is you're selling your business. And this is your one opportunity, and you have to have impact within the very first three sentences. The first paragraph. If you haven't had impact and gone out there with it and said why you're unique, and people say to me all the time, aren't you scared people are going to steal your IP? And I say, no, why would I? There's no other person like me. There's just no other person. So only I can deliver as what I do. And who cares if everyone takes all my stuff, because they'll put their own vent in it. So that is what I'd be saying, Dee, to make sure that you have drilled down. And if you haven't made it to the winner, that you've made it to the finals, or you've made it into the awards, so you've got off your butt to do it, and that is good. And do it again and do it again and do it again. And having trophies on your shelf, you won't see anywhere of mine, because it's not about that. For me, it's about the connection and the experience, the people I meet in the process of doing it, and the experience I have to explore myself. That's my advice to others. Don't be ashamed, afraid, scared. Just get in there and mix it up.
I love that. It's great advice. And I really think that, you know, this year, the people that entered last year had an opportunity to come back and look at what they'd done last year and compare to this year. And a lot of the feedback's been that they realise how much they've done in the last 12 months. So I love hearing that. Does anyone have a question for Tracy while I have her here? Oh, here we go. I've got one from Jody. Question for Tracy. How do you balance all that you do? Do you allocate time blocks?
Yeah, I do. I start at 4 o'clock in the morning. And I know for a lot of people, that's like, whoa, I didn't used to always do that. As a principal, I'd work so late that I'd really struggle every morning. And then I got to the point where I realized that that's not a good place to be. So I had to force myself to change my whole a circadian clock, so to speak, and eat breakfast differently. I had to change myself. I had to force myself to change. So the balance was that I had to say to myself, I have X number of hours in a day and I want to use them all, absolutely all. So I know how far I can push myself till I cannot go any further. My balance is a 2 and 2. So sometimes I'm highly disciplined, and other times I just let it hang basically and don't give a shit. So I don't have that work-life balance. No, each day is, once again, it is determined by my 5 micro habits. And in those 5 micro habits, I tell myself, this is what I'm doing today, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to smash it out. And if I don't smash it out, oh, well, effort, I'll just do it again tomorrow. The goals, what do you still want to achieve right now? My biggest goal was TEDx. And so I'm getting ready to audition now for that. Yeah, that's sexy to me, be able to do a TEDx, and that's pretty cool. Sheds, I've got to trash my weight a bit for these horses. I've put on a lot of weight over COVID.
We're all carrying a bit of COVID kilos. I'm with you on that one.
Yeah, and my goals are, I really like to get my book to cinema. So I have been asked if I would write my book as a hand over to an Australian, manuscript Australian director. And I sort of went, oh yeah, but I've actually started doing it now. So I'm going to write the story, and it's going to be very dark humor. So a little bit like The Dressmaker, and with all the real life deaths and sordid details in it. So that's something I want to do too. So I want to die knowing I've done everything possible that I wanted to do, and my kids and my family are pretty okay with that. Yeah.
I love that you're really honest, Tracy, in the fact that you don't have your shit together every day, because I feel like everyone really needs to hear that. I constantly get tripped up when I feel like I'm inferior, you know, because you're watching other people who seem to have that really, you know, everything, all their house is immaculate, their kids are, you know, well dressed, everybody's like, because it's not reality, I don't think either. And I think sometimes when you're busy and you're running businesses and juggling your personal and your, you know, business and whatever else you've got on, it's really easy to think that you're inadequate, because you may wake up one day, like you said, and feel like, oh, I didn't get anything done. But that's okay. It's all right to be like that. I love that you're honest about that, because I feel like everyone we've interviewed so far has been the same. They talk openly about getting help. It's okay not to have it all together, but ask for that help and get some advice and some structure around being able to help with that situation and feel better about it, and feel okay that you didn't do anything. You know, you wake up the next day and you smash through the workload.
It's important, isn't it? And
yeah.
you know, with my sloth days, I call them. I have sloth days and I don't plan them. I feel like if I wake up and want to be a sloth, then I'll just do it. And I can do it. I think certainly with age and experience, you know, you really don't give a shit what other people think anyway. The other big thing too, I suppose, is having the ability to say what you think. And I've learned that 50% will either like you or they won't like you, and who gives a shit? If people want to engage with me, they do. If they don't like what comes out of my mouth, well and good. I don't hurt people, go out to hurt people, but I do say what I think. And I think I've lived in a world where, especially the generation I've come from, you know, I was brought up, children don't speak. And my mother still gets horrified if, you know, if I say something and she'll go, oh, shh, the people next door will hear you. Oh, who gives a shit, you know? Who really gives a shit? And everyone's too precious, walking on eggshells around everyone else. Social media does that, doesn't it?
It definitely does. We live in a world where I think we bubble ourselves off a lot now, and we are becoming really muted. I feel everybody wants to be really, it's almost like you can't even have a sense of humor about things anymore, because it's becoming, so I think the disruptors that are still able to laugh at themselves and the world and have that sense of humor, you are definitely like that. Wendy just wrote, you are such an inspiration. I've absolutely loved hearing your journey. Thank you so much for sharing. Does anyone else have a question for Tracy while I have her here? Feel free to like unmute and jump on in.
Come on.
She doesn't bite.
Anything, absolutely anything.
Carly's jumped in. Oh,
yeah.
I'm actually just about to run off to another meeting. But your 5 micro habits. So could you just say a little bit more about that? I find it very hard to organize myself every day, and then I get to the end of the day, I'm always like, oh, I had to have done this and I didn't. And that's where I really struggle, is that I just feel like I've got such a mental load of, you know, family and everything that I drop the ball.
Carly, perfect question. Thanks for asking. And it's taken me a long time to get here. I've actually just picked up a 6th one, and I'll do it really quickly. So my 5 micro habits are extremely powerful, and they have to be for me to get through all the shit that goes on in my head. The very first thing I teach is the minute you wake up in the morning, do not look at a clock. So your discipline has to start from the moment your eyes open. You lie on your back. So you're in bed and you don't care what your partner's doing. You'll roll on your back and you'll stretch out your body. Now, everything I do, my micro habits, has a scientific reason behind it. What you do then is you're going to take 5 deep breaths in through your nose, out from your mouth. Now, it sounds like it's, you know, like, oh, that's just the norm. It's not. The psychology behind not looking at the clock, the minute your eyes are open, what you're doing is you're teaching your brain how to perform at maximum potential for you from the moment your eyes are open. So it's teaching you to be alert, it's teaching you to be switched on, and it's telling your brain how to engage. So it's telling your brain not to look at the clock means you don't go, oh, I've got to do this today. It's teaching your brain that this is about me now. 5 deep breaths. Get your thumb, stick it under your bra strap and press in and take your breaths. And you must be able to push that thumb out lying on your back. You must be able to push it out when you take a deep breath in. And what you're doing is you're also getting rid of all the shitty air inside your lungs from the night. But it's all about psychology, my micro habits. It's the power of controlling what's going on in here, there. Before you go to bed at night, you take a cup of water, not cold water, put a cover of some sort on it, whether it's a saucer, and leave it next to your bed. Now, when you wake up, that's room temperature water, which is really important for your body. There's another reason. Everything you do, everything I teach is disconnecting from something and reconnecting and discipline. So you've done your deep breaths, you've filled your lungs with air, and you've got a real mental clarity because there's nothing shooting on in there because you haven't looked at the clock and worried about what you're doing. Sit up straight away, get your glass of water and drink the whole glass. Room temp water, 1 glass, real easy. There's nothing difficult about this. Then you'll stand up, and what will happen? Everything will go whoosh straight down, and yep, you have to go straight to the toilet. So your 3rd micro habit, so you've done your breathing, you've drunk your glass of room temp water, then you go to the toilet, as we all have to do to get rid of all the liquid in our bodies. That is where you leverage your third micro habit. Now, the reason being is because when you sit on the toilet, we sit like a man, but we don't exercise like a man, and we don't normally squat like a man. So the big thing is, I'm going to demonstrate it, is that when you go to the toilet, I don't know if you can see me, you need to be able to stick your bum out and squat down. And I just sort of put my hands on my thighs. So you squat, get your backside right out. The reason being, when you finish going to the toilet and you flush the chain, you do 5 man squats. 5 man squats every time you go to the toilet. That's all, 5. It's not going to kill anyone. It's not going to hurt anyone. But they're brilliant, and I'll tell you why later. So that's your third micro habit. Then you go across to the sink, and oh my gosh, you've got to wash your hands, of course, but you must clean your teeth, and there's a medical reason for that, a scientific reason. Clean your teeth there and then, and look in the mirror, and you'll say your affirmation. And an affirmation is something like, it's going to be a great day today. And what I do, because I love teaching people to speak, is I like to say it in a different variety every day. It's going to be a great day today. It's going to be a great day today. Oh, golly gosh, it's going to be a great day today. Gosh, it's going to be a great day today. Bonjour, mademoiselle. And, you know, whatever. But do it every single day, because once again, it's telling your brain what sort of day you're going to have. So you've got breathing, you've got the water, you've got the squats, and then you've got your affirmation. And then the next thing is I haven't got them here, they're out of sight. I've got my weights. So I've got little 3 kilo weights, and then you'll do 5, just 5 lifts. Once again, you start with your weight. I'll use my stapler. You'll start with your hands by your side, and then you bring it up. So palm facing you, and you've got it right into your hip. Bring it up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and do it really quickly, obviously. And then you'll do the other arm. So what you're doing is you're starting a pattern of building up your core strength as well. And then you go out, so that's your 5th. And then the 6th one is your pelvic floor muscles. So then you'll do some squeezes, 6 squeezes. Now, the psychology is every single time you go to the toilet in the day, if you flush and then do 5 squats, 5 5s are 25 squats for the day, cost you nothing. You leveraged it off the toilet. So psychologically, your body's not going to go, oh gosh, I've got to go and do 5 squats now, because it's just part of the toilet routine. When you go to the sink, you're going to say an affirmation. So a lot of people get bogged down with, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. It becomes a discipline, and you just drop and do it. If you find that everywhere you go, you start doing your pelvic floor exercises, we'll all be a lot better off for that. Believe me, I had a 10-pound kid. So they're my 5 micro habits. And what it does is it disconnects with any of that thinking that is worrying you, Carly. And what it does is it reconnects, and it connects with purpose, and it's a discipline. So it's like your PB, your personal best every day. And like, if I can get up to 75, 3 kilo lifts at the age of 60, like boom, 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 you'll find you'll build up every day. And that's the whole idea. Make yourself build up each day. Just even if it's by 3 or 5, whatever. If you're having a sloth day, you might only do 5, but you're doing something. And by doing it, you're telling your brain how you're going to control your day. No one else can tell you that.
And Carly, just so to jump in there, I actually saw Tracy at an event last year, and she got up and whistled, blew, and got everyone up to do these micro habits. And I've implemented them in my day. So I used to wake up in the morning, you know, half awake, I'd look at my phone, and then I'd be straight in on my social media. So I would take the weight of the world straight up as soon as like my eyeballs weren't even open, and I would have everybody else's stuff in my face. And then my brain would trigger me to go, oh my God, I got to do this. The kids have got this. But so I never took time for me in the morning. It's helped tremendously. Just that waking up, breathing, having a glass of water, going to the toilet, and that little bit, because we all really struggle, I think, for that self-care. So it's just about making those little moments, because, and the championing yourself in the mirror. I laughed so hard when Tracy was, you know, doing, even then when she's like changing voices, because I do it now. So I actually do exactly the same. If I have a little win, if anything happens where I think, oh my gosh, like even with the Raw Awards, I was like yesterday, the 3 breakout sessions, we didn't have any crossover. It was great. I ran in and went to the mirror. You're amazing. You've got this. Like, see how easy this was. You just got all good. So you just champion yourself, because I don't expect my husband to get it. He's just like, oh, that's great. And my kids are constantly like, Mom. So the little things that you can do for yourself really help in the mental space for you on the daily. It really works. As crazy as it sounds, when Tracy got up the first time I saw her and she was doing squats and talking about Kegels and talking about all this crazy, I was just like, who is this woman? She's wildly fabulous. And Jody just said, you do, when I said you don't bite, Jody said, yes, she does bite. Her bite of inspiration and motivation is highly infectious. I totally agree, Jody. Totally agree. So yeah, so Carly, you can start that, like next time you go to the toilet, start squatting.
It sounds really good. And it is that positive affirmation. I think I'm constantly, like, I'm single parent, so I'm constantly at my kids. I've got them full time, and it's just, I'm like, guess what I did today? And they're like, eh. And I'm like, no, I need some feedback. I need you to like give me some positivity. Oh, good job, Mum. I'm like, I gave blood. I'm a superhero. And they're like, eh.
Yeah, and even sometimes, you know, your family
maybe I'm
and
just
friends.
going to give it to myself.
Yeah, and your family and friends don't get it either, because when you're running businesses and juggling, you're a single parent. I've got so many friends that are doing the same. It's such a tough gig just being a single parent. Add to that any additional anything, and it takes it to that next level. But having those little moments where you start to champion yourself, you won't feel so lonely, isolated, and disappointed, because it's a bizarre, yeah, but you're right, Tracy, there's a psychology to it, because anytime I have something that doesn't go to plan now, it doesn't get to me as much as it used to. I don't let it like make me rendered. I would have to, if I had anything really heavy come my way, fighting with somebody or something's not great, it would render me like I'd be bedridden, because I just would be like, everything would flare up. And now I don't react the same. Someone tries to, a competitor comes at me, someone says something or whatever, I'm just like, I'm amazing. You got it. It's like water off a duck's back, but in a very like real and honest way. It's not me being arrogant. It's just me championing myself, and it really does work. As crazy as you'll feel, it's hilarious. And my daughter does it now. I was saying to Tracy last time I spoke to her, she gets up in the mirror and she's like, "You're awesome," and look at me and look at me, and I think, oh my God, is that what I look like? But it's great, and I'm so happy that she's doing it too, because she's only 3, but I think you've got to champion yourself, so you'll have to try it and see how you feel.
I will. Thank you. I've got to run, I'm sorry, but thank you so much, Tracy. You're an absolute inspiration. What a force.
No, and I'm going to wrap it up too. So thank you everyone who tuned in and everyone that's watching on the replay. Tracy Tully, cannot thank you enough for your time and your honest, perspective on things and the realness to you. You are a total inspiration, and I really appreciate you stepping up again this year and being a 2020 judge. I know you've got your work cut out for you, but thank you for everything.
My pleasure. And if anyone here listening to you today would like to contact me to be on my radio with an interview with me, then go for it. Just contact me and do it.
So I will put up that. So the last question was just how can people connect with you? But Tracy runs this fabulous radio station that goes across Australia and to the US as well. And I've been a guest on the show. She's an awesome interviewer and it's a lot of fun. So if you're looking for an opportunity to step out, step up, increase your profile, have a conversation about what you do, who you are, then definitely get in touch with Tracy, and I'll pop those details up. But Tracy, how can people connect with you? What's the best way to get in touch with you if someone listening to today or over the next few weeks thinks, I really want to reach out and have a session, or I want to grab your book, or how can we reach you?
Yeah, probably if you're on Facebook, go via Messenger. That's the easiest. So Tracy Tully, no E's, TracyTully. Just pop in on Messenger to me and tell me if you are here and listening, or send me an email on M for Michael, R for Robert, W for William Coaching, mrwcoaching@gmail.com, and send me a message, and I'm more than happy to work with anyone and help you. And if you're in dire straits and you've got yourself to a point where you just don't know what you're doing, reach out, because I hold massive hours and I'm more than happy to talk to anyone and help you get past your problems. It's just how it should be. We should uplift each other and protect and help other people. And it's a rare thing. Sometimes there's no one to go to. You don't want to go to a doctor, or you don't want to go to a solicitor or a psychologist or a psychiatrist. Yeah, just go to a normal person like me who's able to at least be an ear.
Love it. You're awesome, Tracy. Thank you so much again for your time. I'll definitely drop all of those links, like I said, in the group for everybody. Good luck with the rest of your judging. I know you've got your work cut out for you today. Can't wait. But I appreciate
awards. Your Raw awards are phenomenal. I've judged a lot of awards and I've never seen anything of this caliber, and it's exciting. It's really great.
Thank you. I so appreciate that. That's awesome. Have a fabulous day, everyone, and thanks again. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.